This episode is brought to you by The Guarantors. Chasing down residents who don't pay their rent is taxing enough. Did you know you could offset the risk of renter default? Meet The Guarantors. They'll requalify your applicants and insure their rent. If the resident doesn't pay, you still get paid. Visit theguarantors.com/multifamily today. Welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Collective. Today I wanted to share something with you. For whatever it's worth, doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't even mean you have to care. But I have a very structured routine every single morning that I go through that helps me prime the pump. If you don't know what that is, go look it up on Google. It has to do with bringing water out of the ground. Prime the pump for the day. I have this time between 4:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock plus minus where I call it prime time. But I really just set the stage for the day. And I go through a series of things that includes exercise, meditation, so on and so forth. But what I want to share with you today is what I've lined up for 2025 for my morning reading. And this generally takes somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes to get all of this accomplished if done in a meaningful way. Also have protocols for vacation. So if I leave town, I actually take pictures of the pages that I need to read while I'm on a trip or on a vacation. So I never miss a day reading these daily things. But the first thing it starts with is a journal. So I have a journal that I pull out and I lay down in front of me. And then I start with this book called the Handbook to Leadership. It's Leadership in the Image of God. It's written by Kenneth, Boas, Sid Buswell, and Bill Perkins. This is a fantastic primer. It's just a little tiny one pager, maybe sometimes 2 pages, going through the various characteristics of being a leader grounded in biblical principles. Then I pull out my phone. I have Seeing the Bible app, and I read the Bible every single day. Sometimes I listen to the Bible, but I read through the entire content of both New Testament, Old Testament, every year, at least once, sometimes twice. But then I dig into specific books in the Bible. This year, I'm going through the book of Acts in a very deep and detailed way. So I always have the Bible in there in the morning routine. Then I start with a devotion. I really like this guy, Paul David Tripp. Paul David Tripp. Last year I went through his, I can't remember, it's right up there. I can't remember what the title is, but went through his book. It was the second time I went through it. But this year he delivered a new book to the market. It's called Everyday Gospel, a daily devotional connecting scripture to all of life. It basically walks through the full content of the Bible, 3 chapters at a time, and then he writes a little devotional related to that. It's about a 1-pager. So read that. This year, I'm also reading through Shakespeare for every day of the year. This is fascinating. So it walks through lots of different things: sonnets, plays, random writings, but all things Shakespeare for 366 days of the year, 1-pagers. So this year I'm going through Shakespeare stuff. I started to do this in 2021, and for whatever reason, I didn't finish that. So 2025, we're going through that. This has been an everyday for the last 9 years. I think there's 8 years. I've read this every single day. Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic, 366 Meditations on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living. Big Ryan Holiday fan. Not a fan of his politics necessarily, but I appreciate the fact that he's convicted and convinced as it relates to his positions in the world. But the book is amazing. Melody Beattie? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Journey to the Heart, Daily Meditations on the Path of Freeing Your Soul. I've seen several people refer to this on LinkedIn. I say several, there were 2. Lisa Trezine is where it came to mind the most, but I think it was a share from someone else who had read the book in the calendar year of 23-24. I started this actually the day after Thanksgiving because when I ordered it, I accidentally sent it to my son in Portland, and so I had to pick it up when we went to see him at Thanksgiving. So I'm reading through that this year. Also reading the Tao De Ching. Tao De Ching, and this is a translation by Stephen Mitchell. These are very short daily entries. This will not last the entire year, It's probably last like through the month of January, potentially a little bit of February. Get that one. Going through this for the third time, Robert Greene's The Daily Laws, 366 meditations on the power, seduction, mastery, strategy, and human nature. I love Robert Greene. He's like deeply, deeply researched, and then does a great job of telling incredible stories backed up by fantastic illustrations from different disciplines across a very wide spectrum of people. Also going through Culture Grows. Let's see. There are no page numbers in these books, so I went through and wrote, or in this book rather, I went through and wrote my own page numbers because I take very detailed notes when I'm reading a book. So I'm about 10 pages away from finishing this book. It's interesting. I sat down and I read the lion's share of this book in one sitting, but then I got busy and distracted on something else. So I am finishing that up. I read a chapter a day until I'm done. So I think I have 2 chapters left to be done with Bill's book. And I hope to have Bill on the podcast so we can interview him because it's an excellent, excellent book. Then I actually read 2 or 3 headings. When I say heading, if you get a bolded heading to a section of a book, I'm reading 3 books. I'll share this last 3. So Your Most Important Number, Increasing Collaboration, Achieve Your Strategy, and Execute to Win. This is written by Lee Benson, forward by Ram Charan. I read a book by Ram Charan a long time ago, so when he recommended this book, I was very intrigued by it. This is a great book as it relates to picking the numbers that drive your business, or the number that drives your business, and then how every other number in your business ladders up to that particular number, and then you just clear the decks as it relates to any noise that's not contributing to the most important number and the most important numbers for each individual that's laddering up to that number. Then been reading, this is Strategy by Seth Godin. I have been reading this for some time. There's 297 entries. Whatever day I started this back in 2024, I'm just reading October of 2024. I'm just reading one strategy per day. So this is Strategy, Make Better Plans by Seth Godin. Love Seth Godin. I own every one of his books just because I admire him that much, and he's just wicked smart. Wicked smart. And then this was actually a recommendation by Andrew from Sunrise Communities. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, but I interviewed him on the podcast and made a recommendation for this book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. It's your turn to #join the ride. Darren Hardy. This has been a great book. I get really inspired by this, especially as it relates to building MMN as a business. This has been incredibly helpful in that respect. And thank you, Andrew, for that recommendation. So that's it for what I'm trying to rip off here in 2025. Some of those books get retired, I have some other books that I've started, and then I'll kind of insert those in and get through some big chunk books this year. All right. That's it for whatever that's worth to you. That's 8 minutes and 30 seconds of what Mike Brewer's reading this year. If you happen to like some feedback on any one of those books, just let me know. I'm happy to let you know what I think about them and encourage you to read every morning. It's really important as it relates to your education, getting your mental cobwebs worked out so that you can approach the day and be a beneficial presence for others and for yourself. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.